Hello, this is Gene. It's been a few days since I talked about Manchester United and the issues we're dealing with there. It happens every time we go on international break that these players apparently get these interviews in their home country, and they say things that can be used against the manager. This is not new. Apparently, Erikson was somewhat upset that he's not playing more game time, and he thinks that there are other players that get that the manager has their favorites too. Same thing with Sancho. Same thing. He came out apparently, and he said that he's willing to go on loan, and then in the summertime he'll reevaluate whether he wants to stay in Manchester United and probably decide if he stays if there's a new manager in. So we're back to player power again. But these terms that I hear about favorites, it sounds like it comes from one source on his big platform, over 2 million people. And also, I mean, it's not quite 2 million on United Stand, but he has Stats Football, which he espoused in United stuff on that as well. And he says this all the time. He says that all these coaches that Manchester United has favorites, and it's somehow that's bad. And I'm seriously, I don't really understand this claim. Let's say, why wouldn't a manager have favorites? Somebody he sees in training every day that does what the manager wants him to do with the style of play that he wants to play. That he's a team. He plays with the team first. He's not an individual. We're all human. We're going to have favorites. I'm sorry to tell you this. As you're a parent, there are times that you go through life that there are times that your kids, one is more favored at that time. Now it can change, obviously, and you hope that you can trudge or you can judge them at the same level. But each person is individual, and we're prone to error, and we're also have issues as being humans. But to say a coach can't have favorites, and this guy has been saying this for years. He said it about Ole as well. He's like, why wouldn't a coach trust the players to do his game plan? Now, at the end of the day, the coach is the one that gets fired. So if the results are not there, you can go back and do 2020 and hindsight and say he didn't have the right players in at that time. But that's not really the issue that we're having. Does anybody really think that not having Erikson in the game, the last 6 or 7 games, has lost his games? Do you think not having Sancho has lost his games? Have you looked at his performances in the last 2 years? He had bouts of elite play, moments that you look at the quality that the player has, but not consistent at all. And yeah, when you sit there and say, well, I should be there instead of Anthony because Anthony isn't doing anything, but you don't really see. There are way too many people that watch football or soccer, and they don't understand the entire part of the game. And this guy thinks he knows this because it's English, and he played the game, as he always says. But the when you try to compare Anthony to Sancho, and we know that Anthony had, I think, 9 goals last year and a certain amount of assists. I'm not saying that Sancho would have got that amount; he might have. But the fact is that Anthony plays both sides of the ball, and he actually instills the game plan that the coaches come up with. Sancho is more of an individual player, and is also somebody who holds on the ball and is a little bit slower than what we want, and he doesn't really track back. And he's not really the type of player that really suits this type of system. So it's not really shocking that Anthony is getting more game time before all the sexual assault stuff came out. Now, do I think overall, talent-wise, I think that Sancho is a better player from what I've seen because they played. When you look at the Bundesliga, the German league, and then you look at the Dutch league, clearly the German league is higher. It's either third or fourth, sometimes second. When you look at all of the leagues in Europe, I mean, in my mind, it's Premiership and then La Liga, and then where it goes from that, it could be Serie A or it could be the Bundesliga. But clearly, the Eredivisie is not in there, right? Now we've had good players that come out of there, played well in England, played well in England or in Spain. So you think overall that Sancho's probably the better player, but he has the talent, but he's not really showing it as a consistent level. Neither is Anthony. Okay, and I understand this, but he bought him. He's going to start him. He's given Sancho a number of opportunities. He allowed him to train in a different country. He allowed them to get back in. He was always been positive. Now we're not in the back, and we're not in the back scene and know what's going on. But now Erikson is going to be talking about this. I mean, I guess maybe when you've lost Fred, then it means you move up in the picking order. And now that Amrabat came in, I guess maybe he's upset that he brought Amrabat in. But Amrabat has not really played the midfield, really. He's been playing for Shaw's position because Shaw's been out forever. And maybe he's saying this, that they think now he's going to be further down in the pecking order once Shaw gets back, and now Amrabat will play there. Again, Erikson is not a player that really fits his system. So, and he doesn't defend. Now, IQ-wise, football IQ, clearly he's one of the best players on the team. And we've seen a little bit of a regression when it comes to Casemiro. So you have two somewhat slow players in midfield who don't really defend as well as they did last year. There was a time last year we had Bruno, Erikson, and Casemiro was undefeated for like 18, 19 games. And we played really well with them. People forget about this, the fact that we can actually do this pretty well. But we didn't blow anybody out. And this year we're not scoring goals enough, so we end up losing by the one goal. And though we played pretty well against Spurs, and we played pretty well against Arsenal and got nothing out of those games. Didn't play really well against Wolves and got a win. Didn't really play well against Crystal Palace and lost. Didn't really play really well against Brentford, but we still dominated that game. And I had people commenting on my review of that game and saying that I don't know what I'm talking about. Well, that's fine. That's your opinion. All I know is that we dominated the game by possessions, and we just had individual errors that cost us goals. We're in a transition to a different type of playing until we get the right players and we give this manager time. We're not going to see what we want to see. And these same guys are getting on there saying that Onana has to be this or that, or I guess he'll never play again. I'm like, they don't understand how hard it is to play for Manchester United as a goalkeeper. They don't go back when David got there and how long it took him a long time to settle in. Onana should get the same amount of settling that David got. Now, David was a little bit younger, and Onana came from Inter, who actually was in the Champions League final, so you think he should settle quicker, but he's just not yet. We got to give these players enough time. But what's distressing to me is this guy continually says the same stuff, and he says the players are basically taking their power back. They don't like how he treated Ronaldo or David De Gea, and I know this is all his opinion-based bullshit that he puts out there, but it's every day. And then it's like, and then it's just underneath what he's saying is that this means Ten Hag needs to go. And he's not. Is that what he really wants? Or does he want more and more clicks to show that he's have all this power that he has to show this? I mean, when I hear a player say that the manager has favorites, and the first person I think about is Mark Goldbridge. Not his real name, but that's what I hear because he's been saying this forever. My question to him is, why wouldn't he? Clearly, if you were a coach, you would have the guys you would trust. I mean, you can have a synonym for everything. You can say this, and this. It all goes back to that's your favorite. At this position or at this time of the year, who do I want to have in the game? Everybody else comes out and says, who's our top 11? So anybody comes out, any individual person gets on Twitter and says, this is my top 11. Are those 11 people your favorites? Or would you always trust them? I mean, I think that word is wrong. Now, if Erikson can prove that he's better than the players that are in front of him, then he has a point to make. But he should make that with the managers. It should not be in the press. The fact that he's 30 plus, he almost died on the pitch not that long ago. He should know better. Now, I haven't read the entire interview, and this happens all the time when we go on break. It happened when Pogba said what he said. It happens all the fucking time, and it's only covered because it's Manchester United. Again, we could be 153rd in the league, and everybody has our name in their fucking mouth. Okay, that's the way it is. Sancho has no claim to anything because of his attitude, and it's not because if this is the first time he did this, we'd have a lot more not respect, but we'd understand it, and we could still call him a kid. But he did this in Dortmund before, so I don't want to hear it. Shaw had the same issue, different when it comes to his fitness. He got called out by Mourinho and made him a better player, and most will say now he's one of the best players when he's fit at his position in the Premiership. And sometimes he's one of the best in the world at his position. But it's still, you have to have that mentality. You have to be fit all the time to be at that level. If you're Sancho, you have to be the same way. You have to be fit mentally to play this game. And if you feel that you're not doing well enough, then you prove it in training. And then when you get the 15 to 30 minutes that you have to influence the game when you're in there. And there is nobody on this channel or any of the bigger channels can prove to anything in the last 2 years that he's proved that he needs to be above anybody else playing that position. Now, maybe he wants to go on the other side. I don't know. Maybe he shouldn't play on the right. He wants to play on the left. Is he better than Marcus? Is he better than Garnacho? I mean, seriously. You have to prove it every fucking day. And he's not in his, right now, it doesn't show that's in his DNA. He didn't have it at Dortmund, but he was so much clearly better than anybody else. And he had other great players around him that have now become great. He had Bellingham, or he plays for Madrid. He had Erling Haaland, who's one of the best players in the world, with him at Dortmund. He clearly was, out of those three, he was number 3, and he looked a lot better because if you get it to him, then he does have 2 or 3 guys on top of him. Still, I think he's very talented, and I would love him to play for us, but he doesn't really fit the profile for what we're doing. And he thinks he's going to wait around here for when he's 25, 26 to get a new manager that might actually build a team around him with his attitude. That's not going to happen. He can go play somewhere else, and he could be the star of the team, and they might do pretty well. He might get to a final in the Champions League like Inter did, or he might play in the Bundesliga with Bayern Munich and get 87 titles for them because they always win the league. But all I'm trying to say of this entire thing is this. It sounds like to me that these players, again, they're so young. Even Erikson is so much younger than me. I don't understand why there is no cause for them to sit down with an interviewer from the Danish press and say stuff like this. If he thinks that he's not getting enough game time, he needs to talk with the managers. And it may not actually mean that. I mean, it's all based on how you translate what people say. It could be something very respectful. Maybe later in the interview he says he loved Ten Hag. But when he sits there and says he's got favorites, and then it goes to this narrative that Ten Hag is not really where it should be because he can't control the locker room, which even Mourinho couldn't do that. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Obviously, Again, there's nothing else going on. Unless we were playing, excuse me, unless England was in an actual tournament like the European Champions League or European Champion, European Championship, or the World Cup, nobody would give a shit. They're playing games. Some people care about England, but it's still whatever's going on with Manchester United, who's ever the coach of that team, we have to talk about them because the rest, VAR, that it's Manchester United and VAR, and the rest of it's all bullshit. So we have to continually push these things and to get clicks and to get impressions and get social media this and that and that. And everybody who actually comes back and says, because I put his name out here, that I'm looking for clout, I have 500 subscribers. This is my opinion about what's happening in Manchester United. I'm old school. Mark claims he's old school, but it sounds like this. He said it again. This is the guy that says, "Oh, he's aired Ten Hag in. He said that before we scored those 2 goals that he'd lost the locker room. He lost the players during that game. They weren't going to the walls for him and stuff. He had one dude on the bench that came out and did it for him. I guess it's all opinion. I get it, but he has such a huge platform, and we know that he actually has some players that watch his show. I mean, Greenwood did, and apparent Hoyland does that as well. It's kind of shocking, but he has a big platform. He has to understand that he will get some criticism from the people that watch him. And I've been watching him since he had 20,000 subscribers. When he looked like he was 12. And I've been watching him since then. And I go off and off with him because over the last year or 2 years, he's become more bigger than he thinks he is. Okay? As I say that, I think that he also has more influences than he should have. And I don't think all of it's good. I think some of it can be. But he's not perfect in his viewpoints. And if my criticism of him doesn't mean I'm perfect either. I see what I see things from afar, and I think that that's a good thing. When we talk about old school, I don't think Mark really understands what old school is. I mean, he looks at Ferguson, and just give Ten Hag the same level of what you think he would have done at the same time. There's no way this would ever happen under Ferguson. All the shit was in the clubhouse. It never came out. We know a little bit about the boot incident. We know more because from the documentary that it came out. We know more than and the books have happened since then, of course. But he always stopped it, and he said, "Look, the shit." I mean, the thing with Keane when he did what he did, when he stood up in front of him in the locker room, he basically told everybody that he's going to be gone the next day. I know it's different because the players have more power because they have more money. I understand this, but when Sancho or Erikson are saying that they're not playing because the coach has favorites. As much as I love Erikson, his football IQ and the story that he has, almost dying on the field and coming back and playing for Manchester United, we just got to be better than that. That's all. Okay, just let me know in the comments below, and we'll talk to you about it there. I have no idea what England's even doing this week or next week. I guess I should look it up. I mean, I love watching soccer, so if they're playing somebody that actually means something, I'll watch it. But anyway, you guys have a good day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.